Jordan Peterson has made a career out of presenting himself as a profound intellectual synthesizer, someone who can take the deepest insights from psychology, philosophy, and mythology and make them accessible to the masses. Nowhere is this more apparent than in his use of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, which Peterson wields like a Swiss Army knife of explanation for everything from why you should make your bed to why hierarchies are natural and good. But here's the problem. Peterson's understanding of Jung is about as deep as a puddle in a drought, and his application of Jungian concepts represents one of the most systematic misunderstandings of a major psychological theorist in recent memory. This isn't merely academic nitpicking. Peterson has built an empire on his supposed expertise in depth psychology, charging thousands for courses, selling millions of books, and positioning himself as a guide to psychological truth. When someone claims to be channeling Jung while fundamentally misrepresenting what Jung actually said and meant, it's not just intellectually dishonest, it's a betrayal of the very spirit of psychological inquiry that Jung embodied. Peterson takes Jung's complex, nuanced, and often contradictory insights about the human psyche and turns them into fortune cookie wisdom for middle-class men having existential crises. The tragedy is that Jung's actual ideas are far more interesting, challenging, and transformative than Peterson's sanitized version. Where Jung saw the necessity of embracing paradox and uncertainty, Peterson offers false certainty. Where Jung emphasized the dangerous and disruptive nature of individuation, Peterson packages it as self-improvement. Where Jung recognized the collective unconscious as a source of both creativity and destruction, Peterson uses it to justify his own political prejudices. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious represents one of the most radical ideas in the history of psychology. Unlike Freud's personal unconscious, which contains repressed individual experiences, the collective unconscious consists of universal patterns and images that transcend individual experience. These archetypes, as Jung called them, are not mere symbols but autonomous psychic entities that can possess individuals and entire cultures. They represent the deepest layer of the psyche, connecting us to what Jung called the 2-million-year-old man within us. This is genuinely revolutionary stuff. Jung was suggesting that beneath our personal psychology lies a vast ocean of shared human experience, encoded in symbolic form and capable of erupting into consciousness with tremendous force. The collective unconscious isn't a filing cabinet of useful metaphors, it's a dynamic, living system that shapes how we perceive reality itself. It's why certain stories, symbols, and patterns appear across cultures without direct contact. It's why we can be moved by myths we've never heard before and why certain images carry inexplicable emotional weight. Peterson takes this profound insight and reduces it to a validation of traditional social structures. In his hands, the collective unconscious becomes a psychological justification for why things are the way they are. Ancient hierarchies aren't just historical accidents, they're expressions of eternal psychological truths encoded in our deepest mental structures. Traditional gender roles aren't culturally contingent, they're archetypal patterns that we violate at our peril. This is a complete betrayal of Jung's actual thinking. Jung understood that the collective unconscious was as much a source of psychological imprisonment as liberation. The very archetypes that connect us to universal human experience can also trap us in outdated patterns of thinking and being. The collective unconscious doesn't validate existing social arrangements, it reveals the psychological forces that create and maintain them, often at great cost to individual development. When Jung analyzed the rise of Nazism, he didn't see it as a natural expression of archetypal patterns but as a dangerous possession by destructive archetypal forces that needed to be understood and integrated, not celebrated. Peterson's conservative interpretation of the collective unconscious also ignores Jung's emphasis on its creative and transformative potential. The collective unconscious isn't just a repository of ancient wisdom, it's a source of new possibilities. The archetypal patterns Jung identified aren't fixed templates but dynamic processes that can generate novel solutions to unprecedented problems. This is why Jung was so interested in alchemy, mythology, and religious symbolism, not because they represented eternal truths, but because they showed how human consciousness could transform itself through engagement with archetypal material. Jung's understanding of archetypes is perhaps his most sophisticated contribution to psychology, and it's where Peterson's misunderstanding becomes most glaring. For Jung, archetypes are not simple character types or personality categories. They are autonomous psychic complexes that can take possession of individuals and cultures. They are living, dynamic forces that shape perception and behavior from within the unconscious. An archetype is not something you choose to embody, it's something that can overwhelm you, for better or worse. Take the archetype of the hero, which Peterson discusses extensively. In Jung's understanding, the hero archetype represents the process by which consciousness separates itself from the unconscious matrix and establishes its own identity. This is a necessary but dangerous process. The hero must slay the dragon, but the dragon often represents valuable aspects of the unconscious that get lost in the process. The hero's journey isn't a simple tale of good triumphing over evil, it's a complex psychological process that involves both gain and loss, both liberation and destruction. Peterson simplifies this into a straightforward narrative of personal improvement. The hero's journey becomes a template for taking responsibility for your life and standing up straight with your shoulders back. The psychological complexity disappears, replaced by motivational speaking. The dangerous, transformative power of archetypal possession becomes a self-help manual for achieving success and status. This trivialization extends to Peterson's treatment of other archetypes. The shadow, Jung's term for the repressed and rejected aspects of the personality, becomes simply the things you don't like about yourself that you need to integrate. The anima and animus, Jung's concepts for the contrasexual aspects of the psyche, become basic relationship advice about understanding the opposite sex. The self, Jung's term for the archetype of wholeness and integration, becomes a goal to achieve rather than a process to engage with. Jung understood that archetypal encounters are often traumatic and disorienting. They shatter our existing sense of self and force us to reconstruct our identity on new foundations. This is why Jung emphasized the importance of analysis and careful attention to dreams, fantasies, and synchronicities. These are the ways that archetypal material announces itself to consciousness. The goal isn't to master the archetypes but to develop a conscious relationship with them. Peterson's approach eliminates this psychological sophistication. Archetypes become personality types that you can consciously choose to embody. The hero isn't a dangerous psychological force that might possess you, it's a role model you can imitate. The shadow isn't an autonomous complex that requires careful integration, it's a collection of bad habits you can overcome through willpower. This transforms Jung's dynamic psychology into static categories that feel more like a personality test than a genuine encounter with the depths of the psyche. Perhaps nowhere is Peterson's misunderstanding more complete than in his treatment of individuation, Jung's term for the process by which an individual becomes psychologically whole. For Jung, individuation is not self-improvement, it's a fundamental transformation of the entire personality structure. It involves the dissolution of the ego's identification with social roles and the emergence of a new center of personality that Jung called the self. This is genuinely radical psychology. Jung is describing a process in which the person you think you are essentially dies and is reborn as someone fundamentally different. The ego, which has been running the show, must learn to serve a deeper center of wisdom and integration. This process often involves what Jung called the dark night of the soul, periods of profound disorientation, depression, and existential crisis as the old personality structure breaks down. Individuation is not something you achieve through following rules or implementing systems. It's something that happens to you when you're ready to let go of your current identity and allow something new to emerge. It requires what Jung called active imagination, a disciplined engagement with unconscious material that allows new possibilities to emerge. It's dangerous, unpredictable, and often socially disruptive. People who undergo genuine individuation often become less adapted to social norms, not more. Peterson turns this into a self-help program. Individuation becomes becoming the person you're meant to be through following his 12 rules and implementing his practical advice. The danger and uncertainty disappear, replaced by a step-by-step process for personal optimization. The social disruption that often accompanies individuation is reframed as taking responsibility and standing up for yourself. The dissolution of ego identification becomes developing confidence and competence. This misses the entire point of Jung's concept. Individuation isn't about becoming a better version of your current self. It's about discovering that your current self is largely an illusion and allowing a deeper truth to emerge. It's not about achieving success within existing social structures. It's about finding your authentic relationship to life itself, which may require rejecting many social expectations and norms. Jung understood that individuation is a rare and difficult process that most people never complete. It requires a willingness to face the unknown aspects of yourself and to live with uncertainty and paradox. It's not a goal to achieve, but a lifelong process of growth and transformation. Peterson's reduction of individuation to personal development eliminates everything that makes the concept psychologically meaningful. What makes Peterson's butchering of Jung particularly pernicious is how it serves his broader ideological agenda. Jung's psychology is inherently subversive. It reveals the arbitrary nature of social roles, the constructed character of personal identity, and the possibility of fundamental transformation. Peterson uses Jung's concepts to reinforce existing hierarchies and social arrangements. Where Jung saw the need to question and transcend social conditioning, Peterson sees the need to adapt to it more successfully. Where Jung emphasized the importance of integrating rejected aspects of the psyche, Peterson focuses on eliminating negative traits and behaviors. Where Jung recognized the value of psychological crisis and breakdown, Peterson offers techniques for maintaining stability and control. This transformation of Jung's radical psychology into conservative self-help is not accidental. Peterson has systematically removed everything from Jung's work that might challenge his audience's existing beliefs and assumptions. The result is a psychology that promises transformation while actually reinforcing the status quo. It's Jung without the danger, the mystery, or the genuine possibility of change. The tragedy is that Peterson's audience, often young men struggling with meaning and purpose, desperately needs what Jung actually offers. They need a psychology that acknowledges the arbitrariness of social roles, the possibility of fundamental transformation, and the importance of finding authentic relationship to life. Instead, they get a psychology that tells them to clean their rooms, follow the rules, and compete more effectively within existing hierarchies. Peterson has turned Jung's profound insights into a commercial enterprise. His online courses promise to teach you how to understand yourself and improve your life through Jungian concepts. His books package archetypal wisdom into practical advice for success and happiness. His lectures transform the dangerous journey of individuation into motivational speaking for the professionally frustrated. This commercialization of Jung's work represents a fundamental betrayal of Jung's actual approach to psychology. Jung understood that genuine psychological transformation cannot be packaged, sold, or systematized. It requires individual engagement with the unconscious through dreams, active imagination, and careful attention to synchronicities. It's a deeply personal process that cannot be reduced to universal principles or practical techniques. Peterson's approach treats Jung's concepts as tools to be used rather than mysteries to be explored. The shadow becomes a problem to be solved rather than a dynamic force to be understood. Archetypes become personality types to be mastered rather than autonomous complexes to be related to. The collective unconscious becomes a source of practical wisdom rather than a vast, dangerous ocean of psychic material. This instrumentalization of Jung's work eliminates everything that makes it psychologically valuable. Jung's concepts are not meant to be used to achieve goals. They're meant to transform your understanding of what goals are worth pursuing. They're not meant to help you adapt to society. They're meant to help you discover your authentic relationship to life itself. What makes Peterson's misuse of Jung particularly insidious is how it masquerades as intellectual sophistication. Peterson drops Jungian terminology into his lectures and writings, creating the impression that his advice is grounded in deep psychological insight. He references Jung's concepts of archetypes, individuation, and the collective unconscious, giving his pronouncements an air of scholarly authority. But this is intellectual cosplay. Peterson is wearing Jung's concepts like a costume, using them to dress up conventional self-help advice and conservative political positions. He's not actually engaging with Jung's psychology, he's using Jung's vocabulary to make his own ideas seem more profound and credible. This deception is particularly damaging because it prevents people from encountering Jung's actual work. When Peterson's audience hears him discuss archetypes or individuation, they assume they're learning about Jung's ideas. But they're actually learning about Peterson's ideas dressed up in Jungian language. This creates the illusion of familiarity with Jung while actually building barriers to genuine understanding. The real tragedy is that Jung's actual psychology offers exactly what Peterson's audience is looking for, a way to understand themselves that goes beyond social conditioning and conventional success metrics. Jung's work provides a framework for genuine transformation, authentic relationship to life, and integration of all aspects of the personality. But Peterson's sanitized version eliminates everything that makes Jung's psychology transformative. Peterson's butchering of Jung is part of a broader pattern in contemporary intellectual culture, the reduction of complex ideas to simple formulas, the commercialization of wisdom, and the use of intellectual authority to reinforce rather than challenge existing power structures. Peterson presents himself as a guide to psychological truth while actually serving as a salesman for psychological comfort. Jung's actual work remains as relevant and challenging as ever. His insights into the nature of the psyche, the process of individuation, and the role of the collective unconscious in shaping human experience offer genuine alternatives to the shallow psychology of self-optimization that Peterson promotes. But accessing these insights requires engaging with Jung's work directly, not through Peterson's distorted interpretations. The difference between Jung and Peterson is the difference between transformation and adaptation, between wisdom and clever advice, between genuine psychology and sophisticated salesmanship. Jung offers a path toward authentic selfhood that may require abandoning everything you think you know about yourself. Peterson offers techniques for becoming a more successful version of who you already are. Peterson's Jungian word salad serves neither Jung nor his audience. It reduces profound psychological insights to self-help platitudes, transforms dangerous wisdom into safe advice, and turns the possibility of genuine transformation into a program for personal optimization. Those seeking real psychological insight would do better to bypass Peterson entirely and engage with Jung's actual work, where the real treasures of depth psychology remain waiting to be discovered.